Okay, so we have ourselves an emergency desk job. This is an ROG Flow Z13, I believe, and it has this little panel here. It's a back stand. Things we have already removed is the magnetically attached keyboard. This apparently just suddenly stopped working whilst it was mid-use, on charge, and just completely black screen. So what I have done is we'll move over here a bit. I've lifted this little panel up, which has got one screw, and I've taken out the NVMe SSD, which is here. Put that in a safe place for the moment. I can back the data up off that. That's what passes for a hard drive these days. So we're going to see if we can get this open, which I believe is 2 screws here and some along the edge here. We'll look at that. I'm following a tutorial myself at the moment, so we'll see how it goes. It took me quite a little bit to realize that this stand here actually does, with a bit of gentle force, open all the way up, exposing access to like the micro SD card slots and all the other stuff that's in here. So let's get cracking. We'll pull these screws out when I find a suitably small Torx tamper-proof driver, keeping in mind that these screws are just Phillips head and it's magnetic along there, so things stick to it, which makes life a little bit challenging, but we'll work with that. Now these screws in the corner are quite long, I assume because they go through all the layers of the laptop to hold everything together. And they are magnetic, which is nice. And now I have to rotate this round, take the 2 screws out of the top, which are, if I can move the camera up, they are one here and one here, either side of this magnetic port. Now these 2 port screws seem to be the short 2 of the 4. If it's only 4 screws, I'm going to be quite impressed here. Now the tutorial I'm watching, which if I have a look over the back here, is by a YouTuber by the name of Sean Jones. I'm watching this one, and yeah, he says you need a suction cup to pull the 2 sections away. I would think he's probably correct here, because I'm going to need to be able to get a spudger or something in that gap, and to do so without breaking the glass. I might do that off camera. Right, now we have a gap. I have a bunch of these spudgers. We have a gap, and I've been just holding one in while I work around. It's important that when you peel this, you go very gently, don't stick it in too deep, and bend towards the metal bit, because that's what releases the clips. If you bend the other way, you're going to snap the clips off. Now we have to work our way all the way around here very gently. So that's what I'm going to do. I did get the gap to open up a little bit with a big blob of Blue Tack. It's a Bostik product. It's spelled B-L-U-T-A-C. I use it for everything, and I've got huge amounts of it. So I put a big blob and separated off, and the adhesion was enough to separate it, but suction cup would be much better for this. Now, as with most things that cross my desk, this is the first time ever seeing one of these, so I don't know how this glass display is attached, and we're nearing the end of the clips here. I'm trying not to put too much force or bend things, and I'm just working my way through the last few clips. I assume there's going to be some extra flimsy ribbon cables in here somewhere. So I'm just going to leave the camera recording while I concentrate on working my way down here. I haven't seen signs of busting any clips yet, which is a bit of a record. These things you tend to usually bust at least one snap clip when you open it. Okay, now the original owner of this is deceased, I should mention too, and it's a husband that's quite concerned about the data on it, but we have the NVMe secure and safe, so we know the data is secure. Now I've got to open this side here, work my way around. Right, the top seems to be free. Now let's see what's under here. Oh, looks like ROG actually intended these to be serviced. Oh, very sexy. Okay, you can flip this completely over, it would seem, and access this big fat ribbon cable. In fact, I don't think I really need to disconnect that to disconnect the battery. So let's just have a quick look while we're in here. We have our dual fans. This is showing, and it's actually showing what's under here. This is pretty cool. Let me get a different angle. So this I very much appreciate. They're explaining this is where the processor is, this is where your RTX graphics processor is, and all the other bits under here. They've got all the names on things. Things are well clearly marked. It's designed to be repaired, and it wasn't too difficult to open relative to something like an iPad. Like, this is actually pretty impressive. Now the battery is underneath this side. I need to find a way to gracefully hold all this so I don't break those ribbon cables. Everything shakes. I want to check the battery volts here. So I've got my multimeter in 20 volt mode. I'm going to go across what I think is a ground here, hopefully, and check. We have 14.6 volts. Let's go across this one, and we have 14.6 volts. Let's choose another ground here. Let's go across this one. I've got 0 on that one. These are probably sensing wires. 0 on that one. These are probably cell dividers. So we have, these are probably from either side of the cell, so negative and positive, and that's good. So I'm wondering if the battery hasn't gone into sleep of death. Maybe, if we can zoom out here, I have a theory that this has come across a problem that's a bit like maybe what desktop PCs get, and they have like something in RAM that's causing a problem and it's stuck that way. So generally you pull the power on them. I need to just check how this connector works. It's a little different than the one I've seen before. These two little square bits on the corner tell me that there's some sort of locking mechanism. Let me do some homework first. Alright, so I found a laptop servicing channel. It makes more sense, and I'm glad I didn't put a lot of force on this. That slides back like that, and this should lift off the top if we're done right. And again, we should be able to pop that up and pop that up. There we go. Okay, now we can pull our battery off for a bit, and we're going to try and drain the RAM. So the power button, if we go zooming out and change our camera angle, power button is over here where my finger is in the top corner. I'm going to push and hold the power button with the battery disconnected. That will usually try and get the system to initiate a startup and drain whatever residual power is in the RAM. Now, we should be able to connect this back on just by pushing down on the top, I believe. We'll use our little plastic tool here to get the force where we want it. Pull our clip back across, and we'll see if our power button lets it fire up again. I hear some sounds, like a very tight, yep, I hear some sounds going on in there. I don't know what yet, but there we go. We have something on the screen. The good old turn it off and on again trick worked. Awesome. So we're going to turn this back off again, but I am going to take a photo for the owner and show him what we got working. Okay, the battery is showing 2%. So before we do much else, I am going to plug the charger in, I think into this port. Will that show charging? I'm not sure. They said they usually plug it into the other port on the end here. I think it's this one. And the battery is going flat. So we're going to shut this down and see if we can charge it before we reassemble it. Alright, now we have a charge light down here showing. I'm not sure if the camera can see it from this angle, but it's right here, little red light showing that it's charging from this port. I think it accepts power delivery from both sides. So what we're going to do here is very gently try and position all those ribbon cables back where they're meant to go. Drop this back in position carefully and pop it in from the corner. Just give it a gentle squeeze as we go around. Normally I wouldn't do this with a charger in, but we want this battery to actually catch up. I'm going to just work our way around. This appears to be some sort of plastic or very, very, very flexible glass, if it is. So I don't know what they made the display out of. I am overall, however, fairly impressed at the repairability of these. Okay, to reinstall the screws. This is surprisingly easy. I wasn't expecting this to be that easy. Now, with the NVMe SSD out, it obviously booted the BIOS, which is fine. So this could still be an operating system issue, but we'll find out when we reinstall the NVMe. Now, not over torquing these, just doing 2-finger tight. You can definitely overdo things, and these have got a little bit of blue thread locker on them, so In an ideal world, you definitely want to reapply a little bit of thread locker. I am not, because I don't have any. This was an emergency job that I had not planned for or had experience with in the past. I had experience with similar things, but not this exact thing. Let's find our 2 short screws, also with thread locker, on our little tiny Torx screwdriver, and go into this end port here. These magnets are going to make my life hell, so I might do these 2 screws off camera. Okay, all 4 screws back in. I'm going to gently and carefully reinsert the NVMe. This is nice to be able to remove this without disassembling the whole unit. I do really appreciate that. Now I need one of our little Stanley branded Phillips drivers. What size is this one? This is a Phillips number 1. Okay, we go in here, hold down, and it takes 2 different sizes of NVMe's by the look of these screws. Take our little NVMe door, again being gentle. I used to work on hearing aids, believe it or not, through a stereoscopic microscope. So this is jumbo stuff, but I also didn't have multiple sclerosis back then and my dexterity was a little bit better. Okay, let's flip this over, see if it will talk to me now with an NVMe in there. And push the power button. Not sure if I have to push or hold. No, I just push. Okay, so it's going to fire up. And I see the little Windows rotatey thingy here. Is this going to fire up? Okay, I'm going to cover up the name here because I don't want to have to go through the editing process of blurring. It appears to be working. It appears to be charging. I'm going to contact the owner to see if he can log it in for me. And then we'll see what the battery value is doing. Hopefully it charges. I hear the fans moving. So we're doing pretty well. So I hope it was an interesting one. It was one I don't normally get. So yeah, we'll move on, and I've probably got more Land Rovers to fix. So we'll see you there. Catch you later.